Okay, I'm going to go over the slides for the digestive system. Just like I would in lab class, I'll try to go through and I'll point out all the little parts. Of course, this is it's all going to be based off of this list, all the way down to there. And the mannequin structures, did a different video for that. Before I get started there, on our Blackboard page for the digestive lab, you see where it says Digestive System Padlet, and I've used this before. Padlet is actually, it's a pretty cool program. It's something you can upload pictures to at any point if you have the web address. And what I'm going to do on this is you can open this frame, and it says on a new tab, which up here, it's going to make it full screen. But I'll be using some of these photos on here. They're really good, especially ones with like the tongue and the taste buds. So I'll be kind of going back and forth. There is a PowerPoint, as always, that has everything. So here is where we would start. All right, so I'm going to go at the top. Tongue. Great way to start a video. The tongue. Foliate papilla, which are actually these little projections on the tongue, and they contain taste buds. Now, the tongue is responsible for bitter, sour, all different categories of how a person would taste something. But we're going to do foliate papilla first. So probably not a great picture. This is the, when you have the slide in this view at the bottom in the notes, it actually tells you everything that it's pointing to. See these ridges that are going up and down? And of course, this is magnified under a microscope. These are the foliate papilla. This is actually rabbit's tongue, foliate papilla. And then on the inside, where they come down this way, on the very inside parts of these, if you blow that up bigger, you get these little circular structures that I think look like onions. Those are taste buds. And that's the opening here. So saliva mixes with food, and then it goes down into there. And like I said, the tongue is responsible for sour, bitter. The other two are escaping me at the moment. But all the different varieties of how a person can taste something. If you go to this Padlet, and I can make these, what I like is you can make these big screen, you can click on them and get super close. Those are really good taste buds, you can tell that. So obviously that's a good picture to use for like an exam, but here is the, so I'll start at the place, but look, yeah, there, see the big old giant ridge? So this would be the mouth, the surface of the tongue, and then see how this comes around that way. Once, like I said, you can click on these and make them full screen. But yeah, that's a great picture. Those are the papilla, and you can actually see on the inner, you know, these ridges, you can see the taste buds even in that particular view far away. If you get really close, like I started with, there's a taste bud, there's a taste bud, there's a taste bud. There's the opening to them. We're not really doing this, called taste pour, but we're sticking to what is on this list. So that's a tongue. A parotid gland, which is the salivary gland, the big one that's in front of the mouth. Excuse me. The one that is in front of the ears. This is a good picture. Same thing. And this viewer at the bottom of the notes, it kind of tells you a little bit about what you're looking at. If you get really close, this thing, it looks like a lifesaver. That's a salivary duct. All these purple cells are secretory cells, and then the white here are representing mucus cells. And so, yeah, parotid gland, secretory cells, mucus cells, salivary duct. So I'm going to go back. Here is, once again, a really good colorful picture. You can see the white, you can see the purple secretory cells, and then right here you can see a salivary duct. You can see another one up here. You can see one there. They're all over the place. Salivary ducts all come together to make the main duct that leaves a salivary gland and dumps saliva into the mouth. If I go back, I'm going to close this out. So here is the up close. Once again, good picture. So there's a salivary duct. See, the opening is hollow. It's a lumen. Here are secretory cells, and then the white are mucus cells. Part of saliva is mucus. Now, it sounds gross, but that's kind of how it works. Next section of slides, the esophagus. So the long tube that goes from the pharynx to the stomach, the 4 layers of the alimentary canal, you can actually see these on a slide. Now, this is probably one of the better ones. Here's the inside, the lumen. The esophagus is hollow. So this big, thick purple layer is called the mucosal layer, and it's epithelial tissue. If you recognize that tissue, this is the non-keratinized, stratified squamous epithelium. The second layer, kind of pink colored, is the submucosa. So if you go from the inside, now here's that purple layer, you just can't see the lumen on the other side. Here's the purple layer. If I make this full screen, well, that's kind of why I don't, it cuts it off. Here's the purple. Second layer is called the submucosa. This layer here is the muscularis layer, and then this outer layer that's got the white, the big vessels, is called the serosa layer. So inside all the way out to the outside. So mucosa, the submucosa, the muscularis or muscle layer, smooth muscle layer, and then out here is the serosa layer. If we go to our little Padlet, so you can get really close, and that. So here would be all of this. So here's the lumen. All of this is called the mucosa layer. This layer here is the submucosa. And then this is the muscularis. The only thing you can't see in this picture is the serosa layer. And the other one's kind of curved, which is fine, but you can actually see all 4. The the mucosa layer, hollow part, that thin layer between here and here is the submucosa. All of that is the muscularis or muscle layer, and then all this, see the big vessels out here, is the serosa layer. So that's the esophagus. So going down to the stomach. Now you got to remember the stomach is folded, that's what rugae are, but the stomach has what are called gastric glands. And on here, this would be the lining of the stomach. Up here is the lumen, it's hollow. And where that pointer is pointing to, see these openings at the top? Okay, this comes down. This is one that's kind of long. So it comes all the way to the bottom and comes all the way back up. That is a gastric gland. And what you have in here are different cell types. And the opening to these glands, the openings here, the openings in there, are called gastric pits. That's the opening to, and a gland is really this, like I said, it comes down. There's one that is shorter, so it comes down, turns around, then comes back up this way. So those are gastric glands. Now, if you go, now you can see here's one of those glands that comes down that way. See the white cells, and they're kind of found at the top? Those are mucus cells. And the stomach has a layer of mucus. They produce that. So a gastric pit is the opening to those gastric glands. There's the mucus cells. Now the chief cells and parietal cells. If you go down deeper, you were using a slide and you actually went down a little bit deeper, you move further down into the layers, you would see these cell types. The purple with the nuclei at the bottom are chief cells. The little pink guys here, and the white spaces are where the slide's coming apart. This thing with the round nucleus, that's a parietal cell. And they look like a fried egg. See that one there, and the dark is the nucleus. There's another one. Well, they're all over the place. There's a parietal cell. All of these, it's like chief cells are kind of found in these clusters. But there's a parietal cell, and it tells you at the bottom what those are. I don't believe if I would, okay. Well, I was wrong. Even better color. Here are the mucus cells on our Padlet of the stomach. See the white mucus stains a white color. And then if you go back and you make this big, you can actually get really close. See, those are parietal cells. All of this purple are all chief cells. So chief cells make pepsinogen, parietal cells make hydrochloric acid. There's a parietal cell. The purple round is the nucleus, and all that purple scattered out is the purple would be the chief cells. Yeah, I believe that's it on our Padlet. So a couple more slides. The duodenum, which is the first part that's connected to the stomach, shortest section of the small intestine. Villi look like fingers. The crypts of Lieberkühn are the bottoms of what are called the intestinal glands, kind of like a gastric gland, just a little bit longer. And then there are Brunner glands. Here is our slide of the duodenum. So all these little finger-like projections are villi. They're folds in the lining of the small intestine. You get more surface area that way. And then see where these come down here and then come back up? That's an intestinal gland. The bottoms of these, and I have this picture showing one. So this is let me go back up. So this would be the hollow portion of the duodenum, the white space. Here are the villi, and then, yeah, down here in the bottom, see the bottoms of these little areas? They're called intestinal glands or a crypts of Lieberkühn. I've even seen them called intestinal crypts. A crypt is like a dark space. And Mr. Lieberkühn discovered these, and what they do is they secrete a fluid that's almost neutral pH just to help the enzymes digest food. But the bottoms of those are called crypts of Lieberkühn. If you go even lower, if you were doing this on a microscope and you move to the bottom here, not this big white space, not that big white space, but all of this stuff here that looks like a bunch of honey buns all piled up, those are Brunner's glands. There are mucus glands. The whole digestive system is lined with mucus. If you get really close to one of those, like here, each one of those represents a Brunner's gland, singular. They're found in patches like that. See how there's a whole bunch of these here and there's a whole bunch there? Those are Brunner's glands. They're mucus glands. I don't believe, in fact, here are the villi. It's another great picture. See the villi of the small intestine, and then down here in the bottom is where you'd find the Brunner's glands. You can't see them on this one, but you can see the bottoms of the crypts of Lieberkühn. You can see those cells there are goblet cells. This is simple columnar epithelium, but you can see the bottoms are called, those are the intestinal glands or a crypt of Lieberkühn. So there's another one. Wow, so that's a really good picture. But see the white, they come down that way. The white, that's the intestinal glands. And then the only two we have left on our Padlet are the liver. Pancreas, we did this in endocrine. Remember, this is a pancreas. That is called an islet of Langerhans. These white spaces are just either a vein. It's more like where the slide's coming apart. But the pancreas makes pancreatic enzymes, so it's major involved with digestion. So all of these cells around, we're not worried about this structure anymore. You do have to know this is a pancreas, but then all of this, see all these cell types, those are called acini or pancreatic acini. ACINI is a histology term for a big group of cells. All of these are pancreas cells. I wouldn't have it this close because you can't tell, but you can tell here, this is a pancreas, and then all of these cell types are called acini cells or acini cells. Last slide, the liver. Liver is separated into lobes. Did that with the other video. Right lobe, left lobe, caudate lobe, quadrate lobe. But even within those bigger lobes, they have smaller sections. And they're all connected to what's called a central vein. All the little small sections. A central vein on a slide looks like that. That big giant white space, it doesn't look like anything. Veins have very thin walls, so they look like big white spaces most of the time. The other smaller white areas here and all the little, they look like a slit or just an opening. Those are called sinusoids. You know, blood flows through the liver and it gets filtered. But the central vein has nothing around it. It is just huge. Now, if you were to scan around in a slide, you would see these little sections that are called hepatic triads. They have 3 structures in each triad. This is a central vein, so you're not going to have those structures. But like I said, even the white little slight areas in there are called sinusoids. A hepatic triad, and see we're at the bottom of our list. There's one. Now, look, this is on the 10x for central vein. See how big it is? This is the 10x for hepatic triad, so you can tell automatically these are smaller. If you get really close, see this little white space where the pointer's pointing? That's called a portal vein. It's part of what's called the portal system that goes through the liver, carrying blood from the lower GI tract. This little swirly guy up here is a hepatic artery, and that little purple, looks like a bracelet, is called a bile duct. So there's 3: bile duct, hepatic artery, portal vein. And yeah, on one slide you might have 4 or 5 of these. This one's pretty good. You can see everything. On our Padlet, I'm going to open this in a new window, and so you can get really close. Like I said, you can move it around. So there's the portal vein portion. This is called this whole thing is a hepatic triad. That white space is a portal vein. This is a bile duct, and that little swirly thing is a hepatic artery. Now, if you're wondering, how can you tell the difference between a portal vein and a central vein? A central vein is not going to have a bile duct or an artery around it, and this is big, giant white space. See, if you move it around on the same magnification, you can see how small the triads are, and the portal vein is much smaller. And yes, there's a bile duct and an artery around where the portal veins are. This is just a central vein. And here's another triad. This looks a little different, so you can get really close. There's the portal vein. It's kind of hard to see. There's the hepatic artery. It's kind of closed up. And then that little purple guy there is a bile duct. So I hope these videos help. Just go through. These Padlets are great. I think the pictures on it are really good. And that's all the slides for the digestive system. All right, so thanks.